Hello again. Time for another edition of the Mack Brown Show. It's always great to be with you. Appreciate you being with us. My name is Jones Angel. He, of course, is the Hall of Fame head coach of the Tar Heels. This is his show. That's why you're tuning in. He's Mack Brown, and we're so excited to talk to Coach for the next hour or so about Carolina football. We have questions from you. We're going to look back at the Florida State game, preview the NC State matchup, talk about some other things as well, and we also have an interview segment with one I think you're really going to enjoy with Javonte Williams, and a guy maybe you hadn't heard a bunch from in the media, but just a really neat young man, and we'll talk to Coach about him and let you listen to some of that interview as well coming up. I think you will enjoy that. But, Coach, let's start with this past Saturday and a strong second half from the Tar Heels. Unfortunately, not quite enough to overcome a big halftime deficit in Tallahassee, and I know you were proud of your team's fight, but I know you're also disappointed in that first 30 minutes down in Tallahassee.
Yes, Jones, we're a work in progress. We knew that. I related a little bit to last year's game with Wake Forest and then Appalachian State. We jump out and beat South Carolina. We beat Miami. Everybody's all pumped. Everything's great. We're going to win the rest of the games. Then we don't play well. So we didn't play well on defense last week against a really good Virginia Tech offense, but we played so well on offense. And usually it's been my experience when you play that great and you're early in your program's building process that it's hard to go back and play again because you feel too good about yourself. And I thought we went from confident to being a little cool. And then Florida State hit us in the mouth. We had a complete bust on our first punt that was blocked and led them to an easy touchdown. The one thing you can't do with a team like that that's talented but struggling is give them something. And we just absolutely gave them the punt, and then I was disappointed our defense walks out there and they score the first play of the game, and then we throw an interception for a touchdown. So we gave them things to get excited. They're very talented. They're well coached. But at halftime, we settled down and said, okay, we're in trouble, but this is going to be the biggest comeback in the history of North Carolina football. And I was so proud of the guys that they fought back and had it right down to the end with a chance to win. And that's what you got to do. When you get to that point, you've got to win the game. So 2 or 3 things. The kicking game needs to improve. It didn't help us at all on Saturday night. The only thing that was good was Jonathan Kim kicking the ball out of the end zone on every kickoff. Everything else was either average or poor, and that's the first time it's been that bad. We've had a bad play on special teams. We haven't had a bad night, and that was a bad night. And the first punt block killed us. It was totally on us. The second one didn't hurt us that much. It was still 80 yards away. So, but it was because of a poor effort. Their guy had more effort than we did on the shield. So we can get both those corrected, and we will. Offensively, we just didn't score points. We didn't make a 4th and 1. In fact, we were 0 for 3 on 4th downs. Yep. But we came back and had a tremendous third quarter. We're usually so strong in the fourth quarter. I really thought we'd win the game. And I think the key play in the fourth quarter was when Trey Morrison intercepts the ball and runs it back to the 29. We get nothing. Yeah. We don't score a touchdown. We miss a field goal. And that puts us back to where we've got a strong fourth quarter and can win the game. And then at the end of the game, we just dropped too many passes. So those are things that we can fix. And are we disappointed? Sure. But in my previous stint as a head coach, I stayed depressed till about Tuesday after every loss. And then that wasn't healthy for our team. So I'm going to be honest. I'm going to be direct. We're human. We're going to lose some games. This is the first time we've been rated in 3 or 4 years. Ranked. We're ranked 13th. So let's understand who we are. Let's understand where we are. We have a month of rival games. Yep. That's never happened. We've got NC State at home. We go to Virginia. We go to Duke. We have Wake at home. So are we capable of playing to the full energy and the best of our ability for a month? We'll see. Because that's something that's really hard to do. And we're going to get the best effort of those 4 teams like we got the best effort of Florida State.
Coach, you talked after the game, both with us and I think with the full media as well, a lot about eye discipline being a problem in the secondary in the first half and something that you felt was better in the second half. Can you explain what you meant by that and how it improved?
Yeah, let me say a few things. I'm not very good after the game. Jones, I'm spent. My mind's all over the place, and so usually what I say is I do a better job answering questions than doing anything else. I said we weren't ready to play. We were ready to play. Kids played hard, and you shouldn't say that till you see the video. We didn't play good, but we played hard. They were hustling and chasing the ball, and that was something that I totally missed. The other thing is we're really experienced in our secondary. They're very talented, but we're inexperienced. So we're playing a lot of man coverage to try to stop the quarterback run. And when you do that, you've got to have the eye discipline to stay with your guy and not start watching the quarterback. And he was hard to tackle. He's a very good runner. So he would escape, and we'd start looking at him and lose our eye discipline on our player, just like we did with the 5 plays at the end of the half. That was a killer, an absolute killer, to go to 31 instead of 24-7. And then we settled down, and we got that adjusted at halftime. The coaches did a good job saying, settle down. Just do what you're supposed to do. Do your job, stay with your guy, and then we played much better defense the second half.
Coach, you stayed pretty aggressive offensively throughout the game. You bypassed a couple of potential field goal attempts going for it on 4th down. But you have been pretty consistent since returning to Chapel Hill that you are going to stay aggressive on offense, and if you feel like you have a chance for big first downs or touchdowns, that you're going to go for that.
Yeah, absolutely. And it was 10-0, and we went for a 4th and 1. You got Javonte Williams and a huge offensive line. Yeah, I'm going to go for 4th and 1. You should make it. We had one guy that got knocked in the backfield. He can't do that. We can't have it happen. So, but Saturday against NC State, 4th and 1, we're going again. Yep. I mean, we're going to be aggressive. And we've missed 2 field goals. So everybody, Jones, when you lose, everybody over-criticizes everything.
Sure.
When you win, everybody still criticizes some, but they don't over-criticize it, the gripers. And that's okay. I don't even mind people griping because I said earlier in the year, they're the ones that griped about their last meal. They gripe at their wife. They didn't like the last movie they saw, and they want to gripe about football, and that's okay as long as they're watching. As long as they like it, I don't care if they gripe. That's their right.
Coach, last thing before we go to break here. The team reconvened Sunday for the first time, as normal, after a game to watch the film, to get some treatment, things like that. First time coming off a defeat. What was their response? What was their attitude when they returned to Keenan yesterday?
Well, number one, they got back at 4 in the morning.
Yeah.
So there wasn't much return is a return Sunday morning instead of Saturday night. And these kids are incredible. They go right back to work, and we didn't practice yesterday because it was so late and they were so tired. That's tough for college football teams. You want to be on ABC primetime, and if you're that far away, you get home really, really late. So you get penalized for the good of being on in a weird way. But those guys were great. They were disappointed. They knew they didn't start like they were supposed to. They knew they didn't make the plays they were supposed to. And they knew we still should have won the game and had a chance to win the game. And they know that we felt like we were a better team. They've got great players, but Coach Norvell hadn't been there long enough. They weren't playing as a team, and we gave them opportunities to get excited. And so these guys are smart. They're disappointed. And I told them, you are how you play. So we're not the 5th team in the country this week because we didn't play like it. And if we had won, we might have been 4th. So that's just the way it is, and we go based totally on facts, Jones, and that's who we are. But we're not going to sit around and pout on Monday. We're going to get it out of our system, win or lose on Sunday, and we're going to go back and start working for the next game on Monday.
And that next game is NC State. That comes up Saturday in Kenan Stadium at noon. We'll talk about the matchup with the Wolfpack a little bit later in the show. We have some of your questions. You'll hear an interview with Javonte Williams, that and a whole lot more coming up as we roll through the Mack Brown Show. Thanks so much for being with us. A lot more to do after this break. It's all coming your way from Learfield, IMG College. Thanks again for being with us on the Mack Brown Show. So many different ways you can listen or watch. You might be listening on the Tar Heel Sports Network, a radio affiliate. You might be listening on GoHeels.com or the Go Heels app, the TuneIn app. You might be listening as a podcast in the future. Later from now, you might be watching us as well. We just appreciate you joining us today, and always enjoy our time with Coach Brown talking Tar Heel football. Let's get to the UNC Health Care Watch. That is where we focus on some champions, statistical champions from the previous game. It's the Champions Watch, brought to you by UNC Health. The team at UNC Health is dedicated to caring for champions of all kinds. That includes you and your family. And you can see their lineup at unchealthcare.org/sports. And certainly a couple standouts this week. Bo Corrales, a career-high 141 yards receiving. He had a touchdown in the game as well, a spectacular touchdown in the game. It was the first game of Bo's career in which he went for over 100 yards. Sam Howell threw for a season-high 374 yards and 3 scores. The 374, a season-high for Sam, and the second most, actually, in his career. It was the 7th time in his already storied Tar Heel career that he's gone over 300 yards. And by the way, he's now at 4,782. Coach will understand this. The two guys that he passed this past week, two good ones, Jason Stanisiak and Mitch Trubisky. Sam passed both those guys this week. He's now 6th in Carolina history for passing yards. Two quick more. Michael Carter, 65 yards. He passed two good ones, Elijah Hood and Charlie Choo-Choo Justice, to move into 8th place in Carolina history in rushing yards. And finally, Javonte Williams, 119 yards, second consecutive week, 5th time in his career with 100 more. He had 186 total scrimmage yards, including a career high in receiving with 67. Last two games, Javonte, 410 total scrimmage yards. So some good numbers there from some Tar Heel players on offense. New polls out today. Coach mentioned this earlier. Tar Heels were number 5, slipped a bit after the loss. They're at number 14 in the AP poll, 13 in the coaches poll. Clemson number 1, number 3 Notre Dame. Miami checks in at 11, Virginia Tech 19, and NC State number 23. So it'll be a ranked matchup between the Heels and the Pack. Coach, wanted to ask you about a couple of those individuals that I mentioned, and I want to start with Javonte Williams. And you and I spoke about this immediately following the game as well. Javonte had such a terrific game, and he's been so important for what you guys have done. There was a play near the end that I know he liked back where he was unable to hold on to a pass from Sam Howell. When you have a player who's like Javonte and who cares as much as Javonte does, when something like that happens, how do you as a head coach try to help him?
I tell him, you're one of the best players on this team, and we wouldn't have been in the game without your performance, and we sure wouldn't have had a chance to win. And we dropped 3 passes on that last drive. So there were 81 plays offensively, and that was one of them. And all the great that he did in that ball game, he's tough, he's smart, he's one of the best running backs in the country. And the same with Sam. Sam Howell's tough. He got hit. That targeting call would have knocked most people out of the game, and he gets up and doesn't even shake his head. He said, "Give me the penalty and let's go back to work." We didn't protect him very well, and he scrambled and made play after play after play. After he had the bad throw for the interception for a touchdown, he's tough enough to forget it and come right back and play, and I love that about him. That's what you've got to do to be a great quarterback. Michael Carter passing guys like Hood and Charlie Choo-Choo Justice. I mean, how cool is that for Michael? And then Bo's been playing with, he's been limited practice and playing with a lower leg injury all year, and I'm so proud of him. And all of them, all they would tell you after the games how they were disappointed in what they didn't do right. And that's why this team's going to be really good by the end of the year. It's wonderful young people that they're playing and trying to get this program back where we want it.
Coach, I was going to ask you about Bo. Made a couple of those terrific kind of 50-50 type of catches where he went up with some defenders and made those type of grabs. When you have somebody who can do that, how is that a benefit for your offense when you have somebody who can go up there and make those 50-50, more like 80-20 balls that he's going to catch more than not?
Well, Jones, that's what I was going to say. When they're 50-50, you're not very good. You're going to have an average team. When they're 80-20, and that's what Bo is, it gives you a chance to be successful. And he's got length, he's got the leaping ability, and he's got very good timing. Bo's really a good football player, so our team is a lot better off with him on the field.
A couple defensive numbers. Coach mentioned Trey Morrison's interception earlier. And a spectacular interception, by the way. What a play. His second career interception. A reminder that one near the end of the BC game did not count as an official interception, a silly statistical quirk. And Tamari Fox had a career-high 9 tackles in the game as well. And Coach Tamari is a guy who seems like every single week there's a couple plays where he really flashes on the field. Seems like he has taken some big steps here early in his second season.
Yeah, Tamari and Ray Bahasic are doing a really good job inside. They're quick, they're aggressive, they play with low pads, And you mentioned it, but Trey Morrison, 2 interceptions. How do you not count the interception at Boston College as an interception when it was the play of the game?
That's right, pretty obvious.
So come on, stats people, let's get that straightened out. But Trey's playing as well as anybody on our team. So really, really proud of him. We got to get more pressure on quarterbacks. We're not having enough sacks, and we got to get more turnovers. And Trey's the guy getting the turnovers. We got to have some other guys step up and get turnovers as well.
All right, we're going to take another timeout, come back, more to do with Coach. We're going to start getting to your questions for the head coach of the Tar Heels. Coming soon, you're going to hear from Javonte Williams as well. All of that coming up on the latest edition of the Mack Brown Show from Learfield IMG College. It is Monday, October the 19th, and the latest edition of the Mack Brown Show will be here until, if you're listening on the Tar Heel Sports Network, we'll be here till 8 o'clock tonight talking Tar Heel football with the head coach of the Heels. And, of course, every week we will answer some of your questions. And a reminder, just because of COVID, we're not allowed to be at Top of the Hill with Tar Heel fans like we normally would be. So Coach and I record the show a little earlier on Monday for air on Friday. So if you'd like to get questions in, really helps us if you can get them in early Monday or throughout the week or even over the weekend. You can send an email, asktheheels@gmail.com, asktheheels@gmail.com, or you can send a tweet right to me. It's @JonesAngel. Don't forget, Angel has 2 L's at the end. All right, let's get to some questions, Coach. And this one came from Gary. Gary mentioned your kicker, Grayson Atkins, and you had mentioned earlier missing a couple of field goals. Grayson has missed a few important kicks, according to Gary, but they've been so close as well. It's not as though they've been way off the mark. When you have a kicker who is struggling, do you talk to the kicker? Do you let him do his own thing? Gary wants to know how you handle it.
Gary, that's a great question. They're all different.
Yeah.
So you're really not sure. He's missed both kicks, a 57-yarder, just a little bit to the left. He missed the one on Saturday night, just a little bit to the left. So what I'm going to do is tell him today, kick it a little bit more to the right, and then it'll curve back into the left. So that's about all you can do with those kickers. He's very talented. He gets the ball up really high. He's got great strength in his leg. If he had made the first one, we probably would have kicked a 57-yard field goal at the end of this game because he's got the leg to do it. But since we had just missed one and Sam was hot and we were moving the ball, we felt like our 4th and 10 had a better chance, and really it did. We just didn't execute. But he missed the first 2 he had at Furman last year and I think made 13 in a row. So he's a really good kicker, and Grayson Atkins is going to end up doing the same for us that he did at Furman when he was an All-American.
Yeah, I was going to say an FCS All-America at Furman, and certainly, as Coach referenced, the kicks have plenty of leg, plenty of height, and they have not missed by much. Just in fact, that one on Saturday, it was very, very close. Almost went right over the top of the upright on the left side there against Florida State.
Yeah, in fact, Morales, Kamari Morales actually said, "It's good."
Yeah, it was close. It was very close.
I liked his call better than the officials.
That's right. Maybe we can get Kamari to argue that one for us. Coach Suzanne sent this one in and asked, when you have a first half like Florida State and you're down big, do you try and encourage your team? Do you get on them a little bit? How do you handle that when you know they've had 30 minutes that they're not happy with?
Suzanne, it's a great question. When I was at Oklahoma, we were playing Kansas. Kansas had an awful team. We were number 1 or 2 in the country, and we'd lost our first 2 quarterbacks. So we had this young guy we were redshirting named Troy Aikman, and he was our quarterback. And we're down 10-7 at halftime. It's raining. There's thunder. There's lightning, and nobody in the stands at Kansas. It's a horrible night. And I yelled at the team, and I told them, "You're going to lose the game the way you're playing. You're going to lose the game the way you're playing. You're going to lose the game the way you're playing." Well, we lost the game, 33-14. It was awful the second half. So we're getting on the plane. We're flying back to Norman, and Coach Switzer, I'm sitting next to him. I said, "Coach, I'm sorry. We absolutely blew it." And he said, "Well, when you lose your first quarterback, much less your second quarterback, and have to play a freshman, you're probably not going to win. But let me help you with something. Those kids really respect you. And what you tell them, they're going to listen to, and you convinced them at halftime they could lose the game." And he said, "You told them 3 or 4 times, you can lose this game. And they heard you, man. So don't ever do that again." So we're playing Kansas State the next week. They're not very good, but we're up 7-3 at halftime. I feel somebody grab me, and it's Coach Switzer going in at halftime. He says, "Hey, best team wins the game the longer it goes, right? Pick them up when they're down." So I said, "Yes, sir. Yes, sir." We won 43-7, I think. So we had some great comebacks at Texas. It was one of the things I loved the most. I didn't like getting behind. In fact, one game at Oklahoma State, we were down 35-14 at halftime. We won. That reminded me of Saturday night. And I called my mother right after the game, said we won the game 56-35. And I said, Mom, what about that comeback? She said, why don't you do a better pregame speech and you won't have to come back? And she was right. So what we did at halftime is say, we've messed this up, we've got to fix this, we've got to fix this. This we can do, but we're going to win this game. We're going to win the game. It's going to be the biggest comeback in North Carolina history, and this is fun. Don't like to be behind, but there's nothing better than fighting back and winning the game, and that's why I was so disappointed for them in the end that we didn't, because, boy, did they give us a great effort the second half.
Good point, Coach. And, boy, interesting that stuck with you for that long, your time at Oklahoma, and something that then again, if Barry Switzer tells you something, that's as a young coach then, it's probably the smart thing to do to listen, right?
Yeah, and when we're doing well, like the offense, I really got on them last week because I could see during the week they weren't as locked in as they were for Virginia Tech. So when they've done really well, Suzanne, you get on them. Mm-hmm. You can press them hard. When they're struggling, don't beat them down. That's what always amazes me about fans after a loss. They want to beat their team down and be worse and how horrible these kids are. They're really not. That's when fans need to pick them up if you want to be a great fan.
Coach Dennis sent this one in, was asking about Patrice Rene, and of course Patrice injured last year with the ACL tear and worked his way back. Dennis was curious how the COVID lockdown and COVID restrictions, how that affected his rehab and how Patrice was able to still get rehab work in despite the fact that he was dealing with some outside challenges as we all were.
Yeah, Dennis, it really affected all of our kids that were hurt. You had Cam Kelly had a knee operation earlier in the fall, so he was trying to get back. Patrice was trying to get back. I'll miss somebody, I'm sure, but Jalil Taylor had a shoulder operation after the bowl game. He was trying to get back, and they had to work at home, and they couldn't afford to go to facilities for training facilities to help them. So it really slowed them down and really hurt their progress, and that's why we're seeing all of those guys get better week after week because they're finally getting their confidence back because their rehab was delayed.
Coach, I wanted to ask one more here before we go to our next break. It is from Ken, and he said, knows you're frustrated after the game. Do you ever have to step back and remind yourself of perspective? And he said, the team won 2 games 2 years ago. He said, do you ever, as a coach, kind of sit back and go, okay, understand where we are in this process?
Yes, Ken, is the answer. At halftime, I was mad and frustrated because we just weren't playing well. And we were trying hard, but we weren't playing well. So you have to grab yourself and say, okay, what can I do to help the staff and help the team get this thing flipped in the second half? Because we've got the best team, and we've got a chance to get back and win this game. So you figure out how to stir them up and make it positive and get them going. And then after the game, I was so disappointed that we've lost. That one hurt me as much as any because we had our chances to overcome a 24-point deficit at halftime, and that's hard to do. And especially on the road against a talented team. And we had it. We were there. And we didn't finish. So then you have to gather yourself because, like I said, I'm awful after the game. I'm usually good at it before. I'm usually good during. But after the game, my mind is just spent. So I really say some stupid things after games. Now, I should just not say anything. Say yes, no. But I'm still trying to be fair and trying to be factual. And that's when you really have to gather yourself. And you ask your players to show composure. So you have to do the same. And after a win or a loss, I don't talk a lot to a lot of people after the game. I'm into myself. I'm thinking about what we did and what we said. I'll speak a little bit after a win. I don't say anything to anybody after a loss because I know I can be angry and my personality is not good when I'm mad. I say things that are hurtful. I say things that I regret. So I've learned that if I'm mad, whether it's at the coaches or the players, keep your mouth shut. Watch it on video because a lot of times it's different from what you think it was. And then settle down, have a night to gather yourself and do a better job with it on Sunday.
All right, great advice, really, regardless of if we're talking football or not there from Coach Brown. Just life advice that would be good for all of us to follow. All right, we're going to take a break. Actually, before we do that, Coach, because Javonte Williams interview coming up next, we talked about Javonte a little bit as far as within the action of the game, but just what a terrific young guy. I think Carolina fans will really enjoy this, learn a lot about Javonte. He's got a couple of horses down in Wallace. He, of course, was had the top GPA in his class in high school as well. Just the valedictorian, just such an interesting young guy in addition to being a terrific football player.
Yeah, nice, smart, competitive, tough, works hard every day. I've never heard him say a negative thing about anybody, and I think he may be the most respected player on the team. Very special young man. I'm glad our fans will get to know him. He's kind of quiet, so he's not going to say a whole lot unless you ask him a question. But I don't talk to him much because he's so much smarter than I am. I don't want to get into deep conversation with him.
I think you'll really enjoy this coming up after this break. You'll learn a lot about Javonte Williams, just a really neat young guy on this Tar Heel football team. That interview is coming next. We'll take a break when it is done, and then back more with Coach after that as well. It's the Mack Brown Show from Learfield IMG College. Back on the Mack Brown Show, thank you so much for joining us today. My name's Jones Angel. He's the Hall of Fame head coach of the Tar Heels, Mack Brown. We're going to get to some more of your questions for Coach in just a second, but I need to ask you if you know a Tar Heel fan that works selflessly to improve the lives of others and their communities. And if you do, LS Tractor would like to know about it. LS Tractor and the Tar Heels have partnered up to recognize hometown heroes from throughout the state. You can nominate someone at goheels.com/hero. That's goheels.com/hero, and nominate someone you know for a chance to be recognized at an upcoming Carolina athletic event. LS Tractor, proud partner of Carolina Athletics. All right, let's get to some more questions with Coach. And Coach, we had a similar question a couple weeks ago. We were talking about offensive line recruiting a couple of shows ago. Caroline sent this one in and wanted to know what position you find the hardest to evaluate in recruiting when you are checking out the film and watching young guys play. Which is the hardest to say, you know what, that may translate to the next level?
Caroline, the number one player on any team in football, and maybe the most valuable player in sports is your quarterback, because he touches the ball every time. And you have to look at your quarterback and say, is he a product of the system? Is he going to get better? Is he going to grow? Can a 5'10" guy play as well as a 6'5" guy? Does he need to be able to run? What can he win? Or is he just pretty? Is he a stat guy? And then you look at guys like Drew Brees and Russell Wilson and some of those guys that weren't as highly recruited as others, and they're great players. They're not good players, but people said they were short. And Kyler Murray was very highly recruited, but because people had realized they should have recruited the Drew Breeses and the Russell Wilsons all over the country, because they're still winning Super Bowls. And then secondly would be the offensive line, because you're taking maybe a 270-pound guy that could be a 300-pound guy in 2 or 3 years, or you're taking a 325-pound guy that may be a 380-pound guy and be too big. Yep. So it's offensive line is it's a crapshoot in so many different ways, and I think it is the most difficult group to evaluate, just because they're so big and they're usually playing against a lot smaller player in high school, and it's hard for them to bend enough to block a little guy when they're huge. So that's a very difficult thing to do.
Coach David sent this one in and said, during the game on Saturday, ABC ran some shots of you as a Florida State player wearing number 33 during your college days. And David wanted to know two things, that if there was any special backstory to that number for you, 33, or if that just happened to be your number, and if you had a favorite memory or two from your time playing with the Seminoles.
Well, number one, David, my number was 22 in high school. And they always said, 22, how do you do? So I thought it was kind of cool. And then my number at Vanderbilt was 22. And then I transferred, and there was a great player, I think it was Barry Smith, that was one of the best receivers in the country, that wore 22. So I didn't get it. So that's how I got 33. I was the other guy. They said, nope, not you, bud. Right. Here, take this one and like it. And I said, yes, sir, I got it. And I think just I had a wonderful time at Florida State. It was a great time in my life. I'm still very close to a lot of those players. In fact, so many of them wanted to see me before the game Saturday, and I just couldn't see them because of COVID, and I hate that. But I had a wonderful time there, and it was a great experience for me. And I'm really glad I transferred because I've got so many dear friends and memories that I wouldn't have had. I guess the biggest one is I was coaching there. I was coaching the freshman team, and the longest yard was coming out. And Burt Reynolds was the star in the longest yard, obviously. And he came and gave our team a pep talk right before the Baylor game. And we were losing badly at that time. And the Green Machine was what they were calling the guys during the movie. And it was a wonderful time. So we saw the premiere with him Friday night before the game, and then he gave the team's pep talk. So it was really cool.
Good stuff from Coach's time, and different stuffs, and all shaping into what we have now here, the Hall of Fame head coach of the Tar Heels, Mack Brown. And this is his show, the Mack Brown Show. We're going to finish it up when we return. Carolina and NC State. Gosh, already time to play State. Normally this game at the end of the season, but with the adjusted schedule, the Pack coming to Kenan Stadium this Saturday. We'll talk about the matchup with NC State as we wrap up the show. After this, it's the Mack Brown Show from Learfield, IMG College. Thank you again for joining us tonight on the Mack Brown Show. Carolina NC State coming up Saturday in Kenan. Another noon game for the Tar Heels. Radio-wise, we'll be on the air at 11 a.m. for that one. And thank you for all your questions today as well. Our questions brought to you by Cruisers, your fast and friendly local convenience store. Cruisers, let's go. And Coach, as we mentioned, a little earlier in the season than we've become accustomed to seeing NC State and Carolina, but with the adjusted schedule due to COVID, the Wolfpack coming to Kenan Stadium here in mid-October, and it's been a strong start for State, 4-1 through 5 games, including 3 straight wins, so figures to be a team with some good confidence coming to Kenan Stadium. What have you seen from NC State as you and your staff have started to prepare for the Wolfpack?
Well, first, Jones, they've done a tremendous job, and I'm shocked that this is the first time both teams are ranked since 1993.
Yeah.
I think it's been 27 years. That's unbelievable. So we all have to do a better job of making sure that all of these rival games are special. But Dave Dorn's done a great job. He changed some staff members, and Tim Beck, who's at Nebraska, Ohio State, and Texas, has really been creative with their offense. They've got 2 good backs. They've got an experienced offensive line with 3 starters back. They got big, tall receivers and tight ends, and they're good. And on defense, they're tough. Tony Gibson was the defensive coordinator at West Virginia. Our guys are friends with him because two of our guys coached up there with him. And again, he's got a 3-man front. They're blitzing. They've had 3 unbelievable goal line stands, one against Pitt, one against Virginia, and one against Duke. So we've got our hands full. It'll be a real physical game. And they blocked 2 punts. So, oh my gosh, for us, they'll be excited about watching us punt this week. So that'll be another thing. But it should be a great game because this is not even a shadow of the team that we played last year. They had so many people hurt. They've got their guys back now. So this will be more of the real Carolina State challenge.
Quarterback Devin Leary, unfortunately for State, suffered a pretty severe leg injury against Duke. He is expected to miss several weeks, if not the rest of the season. So Coach State's going to have to adjust with a different quarterback. And you guys have another instance of not being 100% sure who you might see at that position. Certainly Bailey Hockman has taken a bunch of snaps for State at that spot. We'll have to see how that all comes together on Saturday. Coach, finally, traditionally, a lot of emotion in this game. There have been some times where that emotion has spilled over in a negative way. How do you try and make sure that it is channeled in a positive way coming up on Saturday for your team?
Well, first, Jones, I do want to wish Devin Leary a full and speedy recovery. He's an outstanding player, and you never want to see young guys get hurt. That's when I got out of coaching, losing a young man getting hurt and a young man getting in trouble to change his life were the 3 things I hated the most, and so you hate that. So we're wishing him a full and speedy recovery for sure. And I think the biggest thing that we all have to do is I've got great respect for State and their players. So I don't get in fights with rivals. We had an opportunity to get in a fight Saturday night, 2 or 3 times, in fact, and our guys showed great composure. So I've told them it's not worth you. You've all got gear on, you got your helmets on. All you can do if you get in a fight is break your hand. That's the most positive thing. So and then you get kicked out of the next game or the next 2 games. So be smart and don't retaliate, because it's usually not the first guy that makes the punch. It's the second guy that the officials see, and they kick him out of the game. So just play ball, and let's just make sure that we play a hard-fought game and the best team wins. And that's what this is all about. This is still a sport. It's not even bigger than that.
It is Carolina and State, noon in Kenan Stadium on Saturday. Another reminder, we'll be on the air at 11 a.m. for the Heels and the Pack. Coach, as always, thank you for your time. Great to talk with you, and look forward to talking with you again next week here on the show.
Thanks, Jones.
This has been another edition of the Mack Brown Show from Learfield, IMG College.